I just saw this morning that the practice of eidetic imaging I'm sharing with you moves us out of a problem-oriented and into a solutions-oriented state of mind. And two clear illustrations of that came to mind. I see Dr. Altman standing tall before me, saying down to me, "Your waters are muddy, Miss Bloom." And I see Dr. Asen setting his briefcase down on the sidewalk as several of us are mingling after a workshop, and smiling up at me, asking in a sprightly manner, "Do you know you're phobic?" When I picture Dr. Altman making his ponderous pronouncement, I immediately feel deeply downed. When I see Dr. Asen smiling up at me, I feel my whole face smiling as I'm thinking, who, me? The long and the short of these two instances is that one engenders a heavy, beleaguered feeling throughout me, and the other makes me feel lighthearted. One moves me to feel discouraged, and the other moves me to carry on with curiosity. One leaves me destined to be a patient. The other gives me the promise of finding my true self. What's not so funny about this is that the more promising my view became, the more I posed a problem to the problematically oriented, whose comfort zone is in the confines of what's wrong. Yesterday, I wrote an account of getting out from under the clutches of a woman who got hung up in her problematic view of me. So this morning, I can see that I freed myself from the burden of disapproval I lived under most of my life, being subject to my mother's and big half-sister's alliance of scorn, and turning into an introvert until my practice of eidetic imaging released me from that misdirection. Yes, my inner voice agrees. In the beginning of my training, Dr. Asen would often comment that something I had just said was aversive. I knew that must have something to do with averting my attention, but I was slow to catch on to the extent to which my whole operation was a matter of avoidance. Recently, I began to see that being aversive is akin to, if not the same thing as being schizzy, split, going in divisive directions all at once. And the more I understood that, the more I admired the wisdom and brilliance and compassion in Dr. Asen's understanding of and way of handling this. I saw that his approach was essentially supportive. When he felt he was on to one of your difficulties, he'd present it to you in a way that would either out your resistance to addressing it or your interest in solving it. In other words, he thoroughly understood what another poet teacher of mine meant when he told me, "You've got to want." I thought that was the wisest thing I'd ever heard. I was wowed by his understanding that some find it difficult to want. Now I see the need to help someone with a difficulty to get around to wanting to face it down. That may take a lot of getting around because our serious aversions may have many holds on us that are so deep and strong it takes them years to find an opening for getting a hold of them. It takes us years to find an opening for getting a hold of them. Yes, my inner voice agrees. Understanding this, You don't attack a problem. You get interested in it and all its wily ways. You play touch and go with it. It gets curiouser and curiouser until you can catch it by some tail or other. That's right, my inner voice agrees. That's right, my inner voice asserts. That's what I had written. So with this roundabout cautious preface, I'm going to gingerly approach broaching a problem with Jerry that is still being a deep problem for both of us. I'm daring to do this now because I sense that by now we understand and trust and like each other well enough to proceed with this hot topic with the kid gloves and compassionate sense of timing it requires. Proceeding with due respect for the delicacy and complexity of whatever may be involved, we need to keep giving each other time to take whatever growing time our images may need to move forward instead of backward. I have two options at this point. Do I see if Jerry would like to go first, or see if he would like me to go first, facing a deep difficulty that crops up between us once in a while? Option one is I want to thank you for telling me a time or two ago that my sudden anger, what I call my Irish or the remainder of my Tourette's, affects you profoundly adversely. That moved me to face it and diminish it further. I sense it would be a good time for us to face this straight forwardly. And best for us to explore your side of it first, so you see what is involved in engaging such difficulty directly, eidetically. And so our viewers may see how they too can approach and handle hot and heavy difficulties in this new way. It's a matter of giving the carefulness and exactitude in ISM concentration, move by move concentration, the lead, for it fosters ever deeper, clearer, surer, cooler, and warmer understandings in lieu of hasty misunderstandings. You may well not feel moved to handle this today. That's fine. It won't do any good for us to go into this until the spirit moves you to want to. But I think it can do some good for me to tell you what I've just been through and am the wiser for because of being thankful for your confronting me with how troublesome my anger has been for you. Okay, well, the thing is that I feel certain that from my own experience of myself and my students, that this is in the territory that's really deep and really difficult. And so that's where we're not necessarily wanting to jump into it, but somehow I just got to the point where I thought, man, you know, we may really be able to do this in a way that helps other people do this in friendship and get it out of therapy territory, which is really my hope, because there's no way that everybody's going to be able to get therapy. And if they could, you know, afford it.
Well, let's do it. I'm willing to dive in either way, so I'll leave it up to you.
I would like to give it a go to see if you understand. You can see that moment when you're telling me how profoundly my anger, you know, affects you. You know, it was the end of the last session or the one before. Well, I don't remember which one, but in any case, you were just being very straightforwardly telling me, you know, that, you know, that you were really feeling it. And so my sense was, Oh, well, let's look at that and see if when you look at that moment, it could be that time or, some other time, but, and just see, let's what comes up, where that takes us. As far as, what that takes, what that gets us into.
Sure.
Okay, so go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know about profoundly. I guess sometimes it affects me more profoundly than others, but I'll just go into an image where I see myself and you, Janet, on a call together, and there's something that I've been working on in our shared work, maybe editing or recording or some kind of idea that I've had that I thought might be fruitful for us to pursue. And I share the idea with you. And when I do that, I'm feeling some enthusiasm inside myself. Feels like some energy moving in the front of my body, in my neck, up into my face. I'm feeling the length of my arms with some tingling. So I'm feeling this lively, enjoyable energy inside myself. And then I speak it and I share it with you. And when you respond, um, I see you uh, looking tense, and I see tension in your jaw, and speaking with intensity, and there's almost something about it's this controlled intensity that I take as like, whoa, there's even more intensity out there that's not coming in. And when I feel that, I feel some fear. I feel a sinking feeling. I start to feel tension myself. I feel all those other places where I had been feeling this like buoyant enthusiasm. I start feeling this kind of clamping down, tightening, and yeah, it's just I'm in touch with both light and fright. Like this fear is like I just want to get out of here. I don't want to confront this. And then there's this fight, like in this tension, I'm feeling like some anger in there too. Like I want to fight back and not accept this. I don't I don't I guess I don't want to feel this discomfort that I'm feeling, which feels threatening.
Okay, so do you want to do emanation on that now and just see that at its worst?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm feeling this tension. I start to feel it up in the back of my neck, this tension in my upper body. And I feel it at its worst. Yeah.
Glide back into the past when you were still a child and see that you're feeling the same way. Exactly. What do you see?
I see my dad's face. I see my dad looking very angry with like this real fire in his eyes. And I feel that similar tension and just this real fear, like this clamping fear, tension. Um, yeah, I see myself as a boy. Um, yeah, I see it in the garage in our boyhood home, like my dad working on the car and something not going well and him losing his temper. And as I see that, I it's like I feel my own fear and I feel that tension. And it's like I'm really relating to that him as well. It's almost this blending of the two. Like I see that anger in his eyes and his face, and then it's just like I simultaneously feel it in my own
So,
body. Yeah.
okay. So I cut you off simultaneously. You feel what?
I feel both of those in my body almost at the same time. It's like I feel the fear, but I also feel like that just that aggression ready to be expressed as well.
Okay. So just stay with that and let me know when you feel it at its worst.
Yeah.
See another you jumping out of that you and facing the situation another way entirely. What do you see?
I see myself holding up a hand to my dad and yelling at him, saying, "Dad, stop!" Yeah.
Were you feeling that?
Oof. Feel it. I feel some like flush coming into my face, almost like this flood of energy, whereas before it was this real like paralyzed lockdown and fear. I feel like this flush just it almost feels like the color red just going from my gut up through my chest into my face. I feel this tingling in my arms. And I feel it now I feel it in my gut and down into my legs. Just like this real connection from everything that's up here down with the lower half of my body, which feels very rooted on the ground. Just stop. Yeah, it's like the energy at first behind that stop was like this mix of desperation and like this courageous speaking. Uh, but then it just sinks down. It's like after I say that, I see my dad stopping actually. I see him just looking shocked, like, whoa, what's this? Yeah, then there's just this exhale, and I notice the lower half of my body with that exhale. My gut down into my groin, my legs, my feet. I hear and feel my voice just really resonating in a deeper place inside me. I just see my father and I in this moment of shared silence where we're just letting that just ring like a bell. Just that moment, just like a bell keeps ringing, and it's just like we're both beholding that ringing of that bell just dissipating. Now I feel compassion. It's like this compassion coming in. Um, yeah, feel some sadness, some grief. Yeah, it feels healing. Just like something shifted for both my dad and myself. Yeah, I feel some loosening up back here now. Just, it's like the tension in my muscles loosening as that compassion just seeps in and spreads out. That real hard stop. Just yeah, that real hard stop and like that bell ringing. It's just like a reset, and it just allows the compassion to just seep in and fill up the whole space. Mm. And then there's like this softer stop. It's like stop. Let's pause right here. Let's feel this together. Let's feel what's going on and just slow down and be with it. Yeah, it's really moving.
Well, it's very beautiful. And I particularly love the way you just dove right in to going down to your feet and getting a sense of direction. You know, I'm talking about directional signals, and it's just like you just from being at a loss, you just went for this sense of direction here. Is that's your emanation took you right there.
Mm.
So that's like the swiftest illustration of why I'm attracted to the directional aspect of this, because it takes you where you need to go. So that's a very beautiful, straightforward, efficient illustration of that.
Yeah.
I think that can mean a lot to a lot of people to see that, but that's
Yeah.
possible.
Look, it means a lot to me that you're just willing to go there and bring it up in the way you did instead of being in this real defended, protected place of like any number of ways that one could act from that defended, protected place. Like, well, it was your fault. It wasn't me, or like, I don't want to look at this. There's nothing to look at here. It's just like you're very ready to say, hey, let's be real with each other and let's see what's valuable in this. So that really immediately allowed me to just go into it myself.
Well, you're right on there. You see, it just frees us from blame, and otherwise we're stuck with blame.
Potentially for a very long time too,
Exactly.
as in lifetimes and generations.
So you can see why Asen was cited for contributing substantially to development of peace psychology, because it's just this that enables us to free ourselves of the blame that leaves us in such vengeful states as we are now seeing in the world. And when you see how directly it can happen, you know, it's really sad how many competitive commercial forces are keeping this understanding out of our hands.
Yeah.
So that's really beautiful, Jerry. Sam, we're very grateful to you.
Likewise. Thanks for inviting me in. Is there any follow-up or anything you want to do on your part?
Well, all I want to say is that when one has encountered what you might call a biggie, like this one, you know, I mean, we both have some sense of the dimensions of that negativity involved, you know, and when what you want to do once you've done this initial emanation is just to stay with it persistently so that you really get a hold of it. Because when you consider how long the fear and trembling has gotten a hold of you and the civilization, it really takes some persistent practice to so that you really get out of the habit of going into the fear and the trembling.
Right.
So yeah, so that's really my only comment at this moment, is to encourage you to practice the image and do further emanations in the same vein, you know, persistently now, so that you receive the most benefit of it in the soonest way.